Mercedes AMG cars are always very imposing. Strong, big, powerful, and they sound a lot. But they keep up that elegance that a Mercedes always had throughout the years. Oozes of luxury, technology, and quality. And that beefed up category, like the AMG for Mercedes, BMW M, and RS for the Audi, makes the AMGs a bit more characterful in my mind. I think that the other ones, they lean towards a more sporty finesse, whereas this is more elegance, luxury, and a more of a profile that says, look at me, I'm very shouty. That's what made them so popular. And who doesn't love an AMG engine? A V12, a V8, or a V6? Now we don't have the V12s anymore. The V8s, well, getting cut down a bit, down to the 6 cylinders. But even the 6 cylinders are starting to get cut down. But what do we have here? Well, here's the first AMG electric performance car, the EQS 53 AMG. And that 53, well, it hints like there is something more to come, because the 63, that's always been the top range, at least after the 65 AMG was alive. But that's no more. Now we're talking electricity. Start button, and you get that space-like sound. What do you think about that? Well, I think it's rather amusing in electric cars. I don't want it to be too quiet, so why not have some fun and create some sounds? But many manufacturers go crazy with it. And when you roll off in comfort, of course, it's super quiet, because a Mercedes always makes you feel a little special. It's an eye catcher, both exterior and interior wise. And when sitting here, it feels very futuristic, but the design is really, really nice. You sit rather low. I think that the seat, yeah, you could have gone down a little more, but this center console here, it raises rather high. So when you want to push that steering wheel up, well, you don't see that much over it. So you need to keep it in the same line, because you always want to have it a bit higher when you start to drive a bit more active. Because you can do in this one 658 horsepower. Well, that says something about the performance. But talking about performance in electric cars, sometimes you get a bit numb. I feel a bit numb, because what do you talk about? Well, you talk about acceleration. They're still heavy. And feeling heavy, of course, you know, for 90% of drivers, or even more, that works. Feeling heavy in a car makes you feel safe. It's very stable on the road. Driving in comfort like this at higher speeds, well, 120, it's a very, very quiet cabin in this one. It's very, very quiet, and I think it works the best on the motorway, just cruising like this. It really eats all these unevenness in the surface with grace. And that is something that Mercedes has always been doing. Taking on the road gracefully. And when they get badged with the AMG, and the power is up, and everything is strengthened, it still has that very comfortable ride, but a lot of performance. But it's a bit more up-strengthened class in the performance league compared to the RS models from Audi and the M models from BMW. Just soaking up the looks of this car. It takes a little while, I think, but I think it looks elegant. What I really like about it is that it's a sedan, and a sedan is always classic. It has this water drop shaped over it, and it's not a crossover, it's not a SUV. And it should give the S-Class owners, you know, electric alternative, even though it's not the same. The S-Class still stands for that super luxury and refined, even though this has a lot of technology built into it, of course. And that's so interesting with the design, that you get the AMG shapes, you get those attributes, the strong grille, big rims, those gills in the front. This plastic, doesn't matter. I think that, you know, keep it. It's an electric. We all know that, you know, there's no inlets, there's no air that needs to be gathered in through that grille. So you need to do something about it. Just keep it plain. You get that big star there, and you get this flat star here on the bonnet. And I like that it takes a little while before you like it, at least me, of how it looks. It is a big car, it's long, it's wide, but it's rather low. The lines are clean and they're stretched in profile. It's got a very long wheelbase and it's got a nice lean on it from that windshield to the back. The back I don't think looks that very delicate. It's a bit too round to my taste. I think it starts off really well. A rather long bonnet, how that aluminium frame around the windows enhances its luxury lines. Beautiful. But that EQS typo there, well, you could have just removed that because I think it doesn't look that luxurious. It doesn't line up with Mercedes. Big wheels, 275, 35, 22-inch. Very elegant with this turbine looking design. And when moving towards the car with the key in your pocket, you got these pop-out handles which slides out. But the feeling in them, they're not the best. You don't know if you should pull them hard or if you should pull them a bit more soft. That is a bit of an unpleasant feeling, but it looks good. You can see a lot of these taxis, the EQS 350, 450 plus, well, these are the range topping ones. But due to the power in this one, the 108 kilowatt hour battery, you get 564 kilometers of range. You might not hit that, but it's fairly decent considering all that power. 658 horsepower and 950 newton meters of torque. But is it really worth it? Do you need this AMG? Isn't it too heavy? 2,700 kilos. That is a lot when it comes to a sporty sedan, but this has got that technology to make it swiftly move about with its rear wheel steering. But if you want more range, then it's the 350 and the 450 that you want to go for. But here we are, this is performance, and you can also get this AMG dynamic pack to this one, which bumps up the power to 751 horsepower and 1,020 newton meters of torque. Now that is plenty. This one, with 658 horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.8 seconds. And the 751 horsepower engine does that in 3.4 seconds. So a bit quicker. The color of this car catches a lot of eyes. Manufaktur Zenit Magno. And I think it looks very beautiful in this car. It makes it a bit more subtle, even though it still stands out in a way. Big brakes. You can get the ceramic brakes on it if you want. And it's 4MATIC Plus, so a high technology four-wheel drive system, which sends the power to the rear battery, which sits on the rear axle, or the front battery, which sits on the front axle. And that has also been optimized to perform at its very best. So when you drive in Sport Plus, well, a lot is being sent to the back, so you get a bit more rear wheel biased type of driving style. Mercedes cars has always been in front line when it came to technology. Nowadays, technology is everywhere. But of course, it's sophisticated technology in this one. Got a lot of cameras, and when you drive, well, everything just pops up. You know, when you come to a traffic stop, it reads the lights out. It shows what you got in front of you if people walking over the street. So it's very clever, it's very smart. But once again, there is a lot of cars that is popping up now, which has this very advanced technology that does about the same, but at a lower price. So this car is expensive. Mercedes has always been expensive, but for a reason. And that reason is history, quality, that they stand for luxury. So you always need to embrace that when choosing a car. Do you want something that all people know about, which is a Mercedes, or do you want something brand new that comes in at a very competitive price, but doesn't ring any historical senses in your mind? And that is a value on its own. You can never take that away from a brand. Many people moan a lot about cars that don't have a frunk, but you don't get it in this one. That's just it. But what you get is a very big boot space. That boot space gives you 610 liters, and when you fold the rear seats down, you get 770 liters. So you can pack a lot of stuff in this car. It's also got air suspension, so the ride is smooth. It's very comfortable to ride. And that is something that Mercedes is not letting you down with. A very soothing and comfortable ride. And I think this one works really well. Even so, when you drive it in Sport Plus, it's still very relaxed. So the playfulness, well, it's there. It's fast, it's quick, it's very quick. So the playfulness is there, but it's not super engaging like in an AMG version with a petrol engine in some way. Even though you got these sporty sounds that plays up when you drive, that rear wheel steering is of course magnificent because it moves the car in such a gentle way. But it doesn't make you feel totally wild. It's more of a comfortable luxury cruiser. So the persona of this car is more lean toward comfort and relaxation. But in launch control mode, or in race start as it's called here, the whole car just shakes and it feels like you're taking off out into space. So that acceleration is of course always fun. But in the long run, I think that you get a bit numb. That's not just what you want to do. You want to take it into some serious corners. And that's where it might fall a little. So comfort mode, everything is set in comfort mode. And the dampers, they work really well. But you can play around and you can get this car showing you how the two motors on the front axle and the rear axle is working and giving power to the wheels. But you pick up speed very quick in this one and you need to plan where to brake because you need to brake a bit earlier. But what's so cool about it is that it is rather quiet and rather settled down when you drive this fast. And it's very stable, that's what you can feel. But you need to know where to brake. And it feels like the brakes, yeah, you need to push them rather hard to get some feedback. So at first it's like, whoa, I need to push them even harder. And that sound, of course, yeah, follows your rhythm. And I think you're more awake when you got that sound. That rear wheel steering, it really, really helps you. So 658 horsepower, 950 Newton meters of torque, 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds, and a limited top speed of 220 kilometers an hour. And if you want that AMG Dynamic Plus package for 50,000 Swedish crowns extra, then you get 761 horsepower and 1,020 Newton meters of torque. And then you'll go from 0 to 100 in 3.4 seconds. But to maintain that max power, you always need to have the battery charged at least to 80%. And that's always a bit of shame, I think, because, you want to have the performance for a little longer. I mean, if you want to take it on the track, and if you want to be ambitious and drive it for longer on some country roads, some free open country roads, and want to have all that performance at your disposal. What's fun is this race start. Let's see here. 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds. Let's see. Race start. Listen, the whole car shakes. Woo-hoo. You can feel that the seatbelt straps you in even more. So this car is four-wheel driven, of course. It's got the motor on the front axle and a motor at the rear axle. And that rear axle motor and battery, well, that is even stronger for optimized performance. And the balance between them, how they're synchronized, works really well. You can feel that when you start pushing it a bit harder, and how it really works in the corners. And when you push it out of a corner together with this rear wheel steering, well, it becomes very easy to drive. Very sophisticated and predictable. Well, sometimes in the beginning you need to learn it a bit because you might need to retake because it can dive in rather quickly into a corner, but that's something that you gradually learn. But this is supposed to go 500 kilometers plus in range. You drive it in Eco, and it has some Eco settings that optimizes that. But with all electric cars, it's all about driving behavior, of course, and how the weather is, the tires, the surface, temperature, etc. So the combined kilowatt hour consumption per 100 kilometers is 21.1 to 23.4. So it's a big, powerful battery in this car, 100 kilowatt hour plus battery. And out of supercharger you can get 200 kilowatt, which is a lot. In here you're met by futuristic design that also has a lot of Mercedes elegance over it. In the beginning I thought that this is a little too much with all these colors, but after living with this car for a couple of days I start liking all these ambient lights, and I think you can adjust 64 different types of lights and combinations. But the lights has also a function of getting your attention when you're driving. There might come a car in some angle that you don't see. Safety features about them. The design, well, you get carbon fiber here, so you feel that you're in an AMG. This big, thick, a bit too thick in my liking. The BMW M steering wheels and the Mercedes AMGs, they are a bit too thick. But I think that they really carved out the grip for your hands, so you get this perfect racy grip. You got the paddles here for regeneration, you got no regeneration, you got normal, and then you got strong. And still, it's clean all the way up here, this big screen. You see it from this very nice graphic here, then it follows along here. And nothing is really hidden, you can see everything, and I like that. In some cars, the steering wheel might hide some of the information, but not in this one. And of course, that graphic is just beautiful, it's sharp. The system is quick, very, very quick. And you can also talk to the car with some quick commands like, "Hey Mercedes."
Vad kan jag göra för dig?
And then you just ask for like massage. I said that in a bit more Swedish tone. Well, then you get massage, relaxing massage, and you got this energizing comfort, so it starts to flow some cold air. And due to this is a cruiser that you want to go for long distances in, all of this just fits in a car like this. And you can turn these knobs down here, and you get individual, comfort, sport, sport plus, and then you can set your sound, your AMG dynamics, chassis setting, how strong you want the sound to be. So you can set it in so many different ways, and of course it gets displayed here if you want to set it on the screen. So it's got the Premium Pack Plus, and you got 4 climatic zones. You got this beautiful Burmeister, which has a phenomenal sound. You got the augmented reality in the pop-up screen. And among some more of that equipment is these multi-contour seats. But I'm not that big. But when you start to spread your legs a little, the base seat is not that wide. It is rather sporty, but it's not super sporty either. Touch panels here. We got some more resistance to them for your heat in your seats. You got reverse if you want to retract some of that moist that might be in the seat. Cooled seats, memory here in 3 steps, also on that side. Great feeling in the buttons for the electrical windows. Beautiful carbon fiber there. And in this cluster you can set all types of styles, from super sport, classic, discreet, to your navigation, driving help, service, etc. And I think for being a touch display, you get to learn these quicker than in many other brands. They are a bit too small, so if you have even bigger fingers, it might be a bit too tough to slide around. But I think they are very responsive, and you know where you have them. There is a lot here, but after a while, you get into that as well. The ventilation outlets, they run along the design of the rims with that turbine-looking thing. A little light in the middle, a little flimsy plastic feeling over it, but it's okay. They look good. I think it suits the whole car. You got some Alcantara race text or some of that kind here. And this material here, I don't know what it is. It feels like some recycled stuff, but the contrast is nice to the black leather and the Alcantara looking here, together with the carbon fiber. 2 cup holders, which you can adjust. USB-C underneath here. We even got some more storage, USB-C there as well. You can charge your phone. So on this specific car, with all that options added, this car cost 1,970,300 Swedish crowns. And the base price is 1,788,000 Swedish crowns. But this is fun. On the passenger side, you can get your own menu. Start this menu here. You can get the Newton meters displayed, the kilowatts, you know, what the car does, how the chassis is working, a G meter. So this is, well, this is rather amusing for your co-pilot, your passenger. The back seat is of course important. And this one, you got tons of space to stretch out your legs. Got the climate control here for the rear seats. The only thing that is missing is the ability to lean your backrest a little, because it's rather straightened up. So you sit in a very straight up position. These pillows, of course, they're very soft, very nice. And this ambient light, it runs across back here, so it's a very, very cozy feeling. But you don't have that much other luxuries to play about with back here. It's a bit cocooned, but not claustrophobic in any way. It feels very airy. So the back seat is, of course, very good. It still doesn't, like stir the blood inside of you as it does with a petrol engine V8 AMG. Because that mechanical feeling that you get from a petrol engine, well, of course, that's different. If you want to compare those two, well, but when you need to rebadge it and get that AMG experience, well, it's not the easiest, but I think it does a good job. But still, it's electrical comfort. So it feels like you shouldn't need to really put an AMG on it. But of course, they need to stretch their lineup and start to think these future terms. But the 450, well, that's better if you want to go for longer. And it's quick enough as an electric car. This extra power and even that AMG pack with plus power in this one. I don't really know. Do you need that? Because you want to maintain that range. And in this one, you don't want to hold back just because you need the range.